For this hem, we're using 1/2 inch wide horsehair braid, and I have drawn the line where I want the fold of the finished hem to land. Now this is a little different than other methods. On this one, just kind of go with me on this. Right sides together. And then we pin. So you pin the braid to the seam allowance side of what you're working. So the braid itself is going to sit, the edge of the braid is going to sit on the line that you eventually want to be the fold of your hem. See, there's the chalk line. Next, we will take this to the sewing machine, and I will stitch midway down on the horsehair braid. You can sew this at a standard 2.5 stitch. And like I said, I want to center the stitching line on the braid. So there we are, stitched. I will go back to the work table and trim this edge down to match the braid. And we will meet then at the pressing table. So you can see I've trimmed the edge. So the first step is press as sewn. And then I'm going to turn it this way. We're going to press the fabric away from the braid. So you can see we have fabric pressed away from this edge. Now, the next step will be to roll and pin. Back to the work table. Now we're ready to hand finish the horsehair to the back of the fabric. Let's talk about how we do it. This is a silk thread. You could also use a fine rayon machine embroidery thread. The operative word here is fine. I also like to use a beading needle. I use number 10. The combination of the fine thread and the beading needle will help you to stitch this almost imperceptibly. I have a needle threaded up, and so this is what it's going to look like. So you just barely take a bite out. And the beauty of a beading needle is you can do 3 or 4 stitches at a time, so it is efficient. The thin thread, and use a light tension because you're just barely picking the back of the fabric. You don't want it to show any more than it has to. Let me show you. Here's what it looks like on this side. And notice it's almost invisible on this side. So I will continue off camera and bring back the results. Almost done. So now you secure your thread. So that's what it will look like from behind. Now this little extra edge here, I rather like this because on thin fabrics, if you just press it up once at least, it looks a little bit lightweight. So you can see here, if I had used matching thread, you really wouldn't see these. You want the thread tension to be extremely light so it doesn't make puckers. But there you have it, a horsehair braid hem. Another option for sewing is to sew with just a tiny, tiny whip stitch. So what you're going to do is you're going to catch a tiny bit of the fabric and then a tiny bit of the edge of the braid. These stitches tend to be a little longer, and if you really want the stitches themselves to hide, this is a much more effective camouflage. But both are considered correct. So I just wanted to outline the two different options for catching this edge. I will go off camera and finish and bring back the results. Almost finished. So let me tie this off, and then I will show you the result. But I believe in showing you a couple different ways, if there are different ways. And debates will rage about which one is more correct. I would urge you to just use your own eyes. So as you can see, the thread is not as visible here. The stitches show up just a tiny bit more. But there you have it, two different ways to sew that braid.